I have nothing but wonderful things to say about that curriculum and about the camaraderie that comes from those students working together. We know just even from data and from qualitative information that youth are really reaching out to their peers, and even more so after the pandemic. And that, like, why not give them the skills, so that way they can be that lifeline for their friends and for their peers.
Kirsten Fuchs is a certified prevention professional in Spokane. She's the Youth Cannabis and Commercial Tobacco Prevention Program Coordinator for the Northeast Washington Educational Service District 101. Kirsten has a Master's of Education in Educational Leadership and a graduate certificate in Social Emotional Learning for Educational Equity. Part of her job in recent years has involved helping Spokane-area schools get set up with the Hope Squad program, which is something I first learned about following the work of the Kellen CARES Foundation. There's a statewide program that's focused on preventing cannabis use and tobacco use among youth. What is that
Mhm.
program?
This is the Youth Cannabis and Commercial Tobacco Prevention Program. And it's funded through the Washington State Department of Health. So it's broken up regionally. We at NEWESD 101, I represent the Eastern Washington region, which we call to be the Better Health Together region. Community work is one of the best ways for us to be able to do youth prevention. So it's a good combination of in-school programs where we assist our schools in doing drug prevention and other prevention efforts in their schools, but then it's also community-based, where we spur organizations to partner together. And then it also encompasses a lot of environmental strategies, right? So we know that billboards and policies and all of that are also a really important aspect of prevention. So not only are we talking about teaching youth and giving them education about drugs and specifically cannabis and tobacco and nicotine, but we also know that when we influence local policy and influence their environment, we're going to help prevent that future experimentation.
How was it that you got connected originally with the Kellen CARES Foundation?
So Kimber had started Kellen Cares a few years ago, and one of the big things that she recognized about her own journey and her own experience was that she really wished that there had been something in her son's school to provide some extra support, right? So we know that youth go to their peers before they go to adults, right? They're going to go to their friends. They're going to go to the, people that are like them before they're going to go to an adult for help, right? And so Hope Squad is just this really great program that allows for us to help youth have some of that language where they can talk to each other and help refer them to an adult. And so Kimber had seen and learned about Hope Squad and was like, I think this is what we need. I think we need a peer-to-peer program. We know that youth are talking to each other, and we need to give them some skills and some tools to help them be able to do that. And so she reached out to another nonprofit in our area called Fail Safe for Life, which is another suicide prevention organization. And she and Sabrina decided that they were going to bring Dr. Greg Hundal, the CEO and the creator of Hope Squad, to Spokane. And they really wanted to start it at some of those schools. But, as we know, community-based organizations have limited amount of funding. And when we're talking about wanting to start a big movement like Hope Squad, we want to start it in one school, and then it picks up. All these other schools are like, oh my gosh, we want to do that too, right? And so there is a cost, obviously, to implement this program. It is evidence-based, right? And so there's fidelity elements. And so Kimber and Sabrina approached the ESD through our Prevent Suicide Spokane Coalition. They caught wind that we had some funding, and we were like, oh my gosh, we'd love to help support this. We know through our data at the state level that youth, especially post-pandemic, are really indicating a sense of hopelessness, loss of purpose, and that kind of stuff, lack of belonging, right? And so it really fit really well into our work plan for these grant funds to help support Kimber and Hope Squad. And so we were able to bring Dr. Hundal to Spokane a couple of years ago, and he came and he got to speak to a bunch of administrators and and it, people who were hoping to become advisors. And it started out with just Ferris High School, and now we have 11 schools. We're supporting across 3 school districts, which is great, right? Because Spokane, we have, one really big public school system, Spokane Public Schools, and then we do have some smaller school districts that are in Spokane County. So we're supporting quite a few in Spokane Public Schools. So we're supporting Ferris High School, Lewis and Clark High School, North Central High School, Shadle Park High School, Rogers High School. And then we're supporting some middle schools in our Meade School District. We're supporting Mountainside Middle School, Highland Middle School. And then in our Spokane Public Schools, we're supporting Yasuhara Middle School, Sacagawea Middle School. And then in East Valley, we're supporting the East Valley High School. And then I know there's one that I'm forgetting.
High school students who are participating in the Hope Squads, it's voluntary, right? So they're
it's based on student nominations. So students don't just voluntarily get to join Hope Squad. They can express interest, but then their peers have to nominate them for Hope Squad. It's really easy to pick those students that are, ready to be a part of extracurricular activities or really wanting to help their peers, right? But there are sometimes those silent students who are being, reached out to by their peers, and who really, are really great confidants, really trustworthy students that really want to help each other. And so that nomination process really encourages those students to kind of come out of the woodwork and for them to get to participate in Hope Squad. And then once they get nominated, they get a notification that they've been nominated to Hope Squad, and then they're allowed to make that decision if they feel like they can, if they can handle Hope Squad. And then there is a parent component, right? We want our parents to be informed enough about what's happening with their youth, and we want them to be able to have conversations at home, right? Talking about suicide can be really hard. And especially for youth who are being approached by youth who are experiencing suicidal thoughts or have experienced losing someone from suicide. It's a really hard conversation. And so normalizing it is how we get better at having those conversations, but sometimes they can still be pretty hard. And so we want our youth to be able to have a parent or caregiver, whoever's in their house, to be able to give permission for them to participate and for them to be able to have those conversations. And that way there's another adult that's checking in. We bring parents in and we share about what Hope Squad is, what their youth is going to be doing, all of those questions they have about, is my student liable for anything, and all of that.
Generally, are you seeing that the Hope Squads are able to recruit participation from male students?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And again, that's really the nomination process that really helps with that. We know that often women and females are a little more generally helpers, right, and stuff. But that nomination process really allows for our male students who, maybe don't necessarily think of themselves as someone who would want to participate, gives them that opportunity to see that their peers are saying, hey, we do really think that you're a person that we would want to come to. There's a sense of, a self-esteem boost when, your peers are saying, nice things about how considerate and how helpful you are.
Can you think of an example that you might be aware of a male Hope Squad participant who maybe didn't originally plan to participate, but was inspired to?
Lewis and Clark Hope Squad has just done such a great job, that high school group. And they actually just recently received a Chase Youth Award in Spokane for advocacy. It's a diverse group, which is great because often we see groups of students, and particularly in some of this, as not a little more female oriented or whatnot. But I would say that Casey's shared, she's our advisor at Lewis and Clark. She shared some cool information about just some of those students that maybe we didn't really expect to want to be a part of Hope Squad, but they were nominated. And some of those the advisors were not taken aback, but were just like, oh wow, I never thought of this student as wanting to participate. And so once they find out that they're nominated, they're really likely to want to participate. A few boys that she was was unsure were going to want to be a part of it after they'd been nominated, but was pleasantly surprised when they decided to participate. And they've been real leaders in that group. We decided that when we started Hope Squad in Spokane, that we really wanted to give our youth an opportunity to meet other Hope Squads, right, and network, because it's not just their school that's participating in Hope Squad. There can be a kind of maybe just like apprehensiveness, nervousness from our youth wanting to participate in something like this when maybe it's new at school. Talking about mental health is really hard, and sometimes students, get a little ostracized for talking about things like that. And so we wanted to show them that there are a lot of other students that are doing the same work as you and care about their peers like this. So we started our first year with a retreat, and we had like 200 students. And they just across, the Hope Squads that were able to attend. It wasn't all our schools, but our Hope Squads are consisting of like 30 students a piece. We got them together and we did some really fun activities where we just did some ice breakers and some team building. They did a safety net activity where they all stand in a circle and they have a ball of yarn, and then they have to name a trusted adult in their school and throw the yarn to someone else. And eventually they create this beautiful web of a safety net of showing that there are all of these trusted adults in your school and all these people you can reach out to. There was like a name matching game where they had to like find macaroni to cheese so that way they could meet other people and ask them questions about each other. We did some listening skills games where they like were blindfolded and they had to teach each other how to get to an item across the room. But we did it so that way they weren't just in their Hope Squad. So they got distributed across all of these Hope Squads. They got to learn a little bit more about Hope Squad and a little bit more about QPR training, which is kind of the core of Hope Squad. And that's the question, persuade, refer training. And it gives students the language to be able to talk to each other about, are you thinking of killing yourself, right? Gives them those phrases, gives them those opportunities to pick up on some of those observations of maybe a student who's struggling, and then learning the protocol for how do I refer this student to a trusted adult. We've also participated in the Parade of Lights, which is a youth put on event here in Spokane Valley. It's a student from one of our local high schools who was working on her Girl Scout like highest award, like gold award. And she found that during the pandemic that people were, really struggling with their mental health. And she learned that Christmas lights and lights can help you if you're feeling depressed during the winter months. And so she was like, we're going to do a parade of lights. So everyone just gets, covered in lights, and we have cars and parade items and stuff. And everyone in like on the side of the street lines up and wears like lights and all kinds of stuff. And so we were able to participate in that this last year, which was really fun.
I'm on the west side of the state. You happen to know anything about potential for Hope Squads here or something that's similar over here?
So, there are quite a few similar programs to Hope Squad, like Sources of Strength and Natural Helpers. And I know some of our schools across the state participate in that. I just went to a Hope Squad conference in Provo, Utah, where Hope Squad began, and got an opportunity to meet people and advisors and trainers from all across the United States. I was the only one from Washington. And so I think it's pretty new for Washington. Spokane is kind of going to be that hub of us starting that regional network. And yeah, it would be great if we could get more schools to participate. I have nothing but wonderful things to say about that curriculum and about the camaraderie that comes from those students working together. And we know just even from data and from qualitative information that youth are really reaching out to their peers, and even more so after the pandemic. And that, like, why not give them the skills so that way they can be that lifeline for their friends and for their peers.